Hey everyone, I'm Robbie Cornthwaite.
I'm Daniel Mullen.
I'm Angelo Costanzo.
I'm Marco Flores.
I'm Marcelo Carusca.
I'm Ian Fife.
This is Casio, and you're watching.
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 And you are watching
Purebred Reds, Adelaide United Fan TV.
Hi, I'm Daniel Mullen, former Adelaide United player and Asian Champions League winner with Western Sydney Wanderers. When it comes to any of my soccer needs, I do my shopping here at Soccer Locker. An Australian-owned and operated business, the store is located at Shop 5 of 181 to 183 Grange Road, Findon. Founded in 2017, Soccer Locker was introduced into the market to fulfil all the soccer-related needs of Australians, providing a huge range of quality clothing and equipment ranging from soccer balls, team kits, goalkeeper gear, accessories and much more. Recently arrived stock also includes stunning retro kits from some of our favourite past eras as fans of the world game. Soccer Locker is a specialist in premier range boots, Adidas and Puma, goalkeeper gear and licensed merchandise. Visit us online at www.soccerlocker.com.au with free delivery Australia-wide. So get shopping now at our Findon store, open from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday and open Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
G'day guys and welcome to the Purebred Reds Adelaide United Fan TV. We're in to preview the game tonight against Melbourne City. I'm your host Ellis Gelios, delighted to have back for the first time this season a regular contributor, is a massive fan as we know, and quite handy behind the scenes too. I speak of Chris Adams. Chris, how you going?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's been a little while since I've come on to Purebred Reds, but it's fantastic to be back. So thanks for having me on today.
Well, you know, I know we kind of launched your career as it was, but now you've gone on to much bigger and better things. So we understand that you're hard to get hold of nowadays. Are you keen for tonight?
Yeah, very keen. I think we've had a couple of good showings in the A-League in the last 2 or so games. Certainly City aren't looking as great as perhaps they could be. So I think it's just another good opportunity for us to get a result.
7:15 tonight at Cooper Stadium, Adelaide United playing Melbourne City. It's a good thing, isn't it, that throughout all these ridiculous COVID postponements, we seem to be the only club that's completely unaffected almost.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, we've had a few players sort of test positive, but not enough to get a game postponed. I think that there's some rule of thumb where it's 5 starters from, I think, 5 players from the starting 11 before or something like that, and then a club can get a game postponed. But luckily, sort of, we've had cases, but had maybe 2 or 3 here and there. Nothing that's sort of ripped a hole in the squad, so to speak. So yeah, we're very lucky to keep playing games because it just feels like the league isn't really going on at the moment. It's kind of feels like we've gone back into a sort of off-season mode, which is very sort of weird for this time of the year.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it straight out. For me, it is the weirdest time I've ever been alive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, especially given that sort of, I know you could look at it from a sport perspective, but just in general, Australia's sort of been shielded from a lot of what's been going on in the past 2 years, and now it's kind of hit us very hard. I think there's this sort of adjusting period that we're going through where we need to sort of understand that this is probably what things are going to be looking like until the pandemic ends, if it ever will. But hopefully, you know, sport can continue, everything can continue, and we can just enjoy some A-League. A little bit more of that would be great.
Totally, here. And I've got to say, how delicious is that kit? My goodness. It's just so nice when it rears its head every here and there and you see someone wearing it. But if I saw the club put that kit out today, my goodness, the units that would get sold in a non-COVID world, of course, would just be crazy to think about. It was really wasted, wasn't it, for a one-off? It really was just so badly wasted.
Yeah. I'm kind of protective over this kit. It's not one that I wear very often. I see you've got one up there behind yourself as well. I think that, yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a discussion. It was a bit of a wasted opportunity in 2013, that 10-year anniversary season, to not just wear it for the whole year. Certainly, I had to really fight to try and find one of these kits because I'd never got one originally. And it took me about 5 or 6 years to actually get one in the end. But yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites. So there's no real particular reason I'm wearing it today other than just the fact that I love it.
Yeah, I'm particularly thankful to the ex-Red Army President, Jason Cavey, for selling on his kit that he bought from that range. So thank you, Jason. Chris, we're getting caught up in all kinds of things, so let's get right into it. Now, it'd be remiss of me not to ask you straight off the bat about our new signings. So Lachie Brook coming in, and also a new number 9 from Japan who has already caused some debate. He hasn't kicked the ball yet. I think a lot of people were probably expecting that it may have been Diego Castro that we went for instead, but and I might be partially to blame for that. But that news was put out on the some of the Western Australian publications that we were chasing Castro at the time. So I felt that it was perfectly warranted for me to go ahead and post that news. And it could still happen, you never know. But it looks like we've gone in a different direction, at least for now, signing a player from Japan. He comes from Shimizu S-Pulse, and he hasn't really had the best time of it in the last year or two. So him and Lachie Brook coming back, I think Lachie Brook's almost the more exciting one for me, Chris.
Yeah, Lachie Brook obviously would be the more exciting one for United fans, because I think we're all now aware of what he's capable of. Specifically, the last sort of 6 games he played for us. He hasn't actually played a handful. He's only played a handful of games. I think only 7 or 8. But he looked the goods in the hub end of 2019-2020 season. Playing off the right wing, I think the indication that Carl Viet gave in his press conference yesterday was that we'll play him as a 10. I don't know how that's going to work tonight if he does play it, because Mauk is still in the squad. It's now like sort of, without official confirmation, it's like the league's worst kept secret that Mauk is off. Once paperwork is finished, he'll be off to Japan. So whether Lachie Brook plays on the right wing, I think he'll come off the bench personally. I'm very excited, though, because I think he's had some good time to develop at the Brentford B team. They're such a fantastic team, Brentford, in the Premier League. Good academy. He's going to really have, probably put some kilos on, put some muscle on, hopefully improved his, weak foot, all those sort of mini things that teach you in those sort of academies. And hopefully now he can bring it back and really shine here. And as for the Japanese striker, I agree that there is sort of that area that we can have discussions about, because it's another one of those signings where you look at it and you think, well, his record recently with goals isn't that great. Is it really a good signing? But then you can also sort of look at it on the flip side and say, well, we've had so many players who have come, don't really have a fantastic resume, but just come and perform in the A-League. So my gut feeling for this is, let's sit out and wait for a few days, few games at least, see if, tonight, if he plays, how's his fitness? Is he looking like he's going to fit in with the team? He seems to be another one of those Opseth type players, very tall, hopefully can bring players around him into the game. I know Viet loves a good tall striker. So I think let's not jump on his back too quickly. Let's wait and see how he plays. And hopefully, good couple of signings for us.
Well, just on Lachie Brook, I mean, that midfield right now already looks like it needs a bit of a injection of energy and creativity, and this is with Mauk in the team at the moment. So with Mauk leaving, I don't know why you wouldn't play him as a 10. I just think it makes perfect sense while you've still got Goodwin and Bernardo to utilise out wide, and Kiddo even if you need Kiddo, because he's played himself back into some form too. But on the Japanese striker, I think fans have every entitlement to voice their displeasure at the fact that it's not any kind of exciting name. And I think you have to agree, on paper, it's not an exciting name. But, the argument that a lot of fans who are kind of protective of the direction the club's going in right now make is that a lot of the players that have become cult heroes at Adelaide United came here without a impressive CV to begin with. So I guess, like you said there, we've just got to stay poised and see how this all plays out. But our record is a little bit worrying when it comes to signing foreign nines in more recent years, Chris. So I think I'm pretty worried. I'm pretty half glass empty at the moment. But look, let's push on. The game tonight, we've spoken about the new signings. Let's talk about what we learned last time. Melbourne City coming here, we snatched a draw very late on. It's a pretty different world to what it was like back then when we got that 2-2 draw against City a number of weeks ago now, particularly with a few of their players being out through COVID over the last few weeks, which we'll talk about in a second. But just based on that game and the general footprint that City come to Cooper Stadium with when it comes to style and tactics, what did we learn out of that game last time?
Well, I think we learned out of that game that City, they don't have a cutting sort of edge this season, I think. If I'm going to look at City's weaknesses and stuff that we can sort of look to play into, that I don't think they have the cutting edge they do last season. They were up 2-0. That was 2 goals that we could have avoided rather than them being an outstanding football team and it being an unstoppable force type situation. And then they were just turning off late, and 2 late goals. Really could have won it. Jacob Tratt had a header in like the 93rd minute that if it's either side of their goalkeeper, it's a 3-2 win for us. They got eliminated out of the FFA Cup against Wellington Phoenix last week. It was a very underwhelming display from them. And just the general sort of consensus is they haven't quite found the balance, and their attack seems to be a little bit off. Certainly, a lot of City fans I know have been getting on Lachie's back, saying that Lachie isn't the type of player that fits in with their system. He's not the creative sort of force that Craig Noon was. I think Lachie is, he needs no reintroductions, especially given his history at Adelaide United. I don't think we should write Lachie off. But certainly there are some deficiencies in that City side, perhaps with their work ethic or just their sort of cutting edge, that certainly if we execute a game plan where it's not try and keep the ball from them, because I don't think that's what we can do. I think it's more like a maybe counter-attack, maybe just look to punish them when they have those little lapses, because I think that they could have more of them today. And we could really have a good opportunity to score a couple against them.
Looking at COVID, it's affected the league in such a widespread way, and it's just becoming a normal thing now. I think I saw a comment the other day that someone said online, which was, can you just let us know when games are actually happening rather than all the ones that are being postponed, which I actually thought was a pretty fair comment, to be honest. But just on Melbourne City, they've been absolutely ravaged by COVID. And I guess what's even more interesting about that is the fact that as an extension to just the casualties that they've got where players are unable to play because they have to quarantine, Patrick Isnorbo came out and actually spoke about long COVID recently and talked about the fact that a lot of his players are struggling to get back to that level of fitness that they went into the season with after contracting the virus. So what do you make of all that?
I think Kisnorbo has every right to go and speak about that, because it's a real thing. And it's interesting you say that. I recently read an article that was released on Keep Up, the A-League's platform, about Ryan Grant, who was probably one of the first players, actually, one of the first documented players to test positive in this more recent outbreak. And he had just spoken about the fact that he had recovered from COVID. Obviously, most or all players have to be fully vaxxed to play, especially in Victoria. And, his lungs weren't as sort of powerful. He just felt a little bit off. And I think that COVID is kind of like, there's a discussion about whether it should be treated as just a regular injury. I don't quite think it's that far, because if you treat COVID as a regular injury is not going to wipe out like 10 members of your squad at once, and it's not going to close your training base. But I think it does have the potential to, from a long-term perspective, a player who tears his hamstring, misses 6 weeks and comes back and all of a sudden, doesn't have the cutting edge that he did before that. I think it's a very similar sort of scenario there. Long COVID is like a well-documented thing. It affects your lungs. Your lungs is your engine when you're playing, and it affects different parts of your body. And it's no surprise really to see that Paddy Kisnorbo is speaking about players having long-term issues or long-standing issues, stuff that continues on from getting COVID, because that's the nature of what everybody has to deal with now. So it's upsetting to see, because I think that seeing training bases closed and seeing players who are really top level athletes and in the best of health suffering like this it's not very good. It's concerning. It concerns me as a fan and as somebody who plays a game myself. It's really not good.
I think Ryan Grant's just looking for an excuse there because he got absolutely torn apart by Valentino Yell. But with all due respect to Ryan Grant, he's a great player. Let's move on. Our home record against Melbourne City is not that bad, Chris.
No, and it's very funny because I remember about 2 years ago in 2019, you and I doing a preview for a Melbourne City game, and we said that our home record then was not very good against Melbourne City. But certainly in the last couple of years, that has changed. We've got a few wins, we've got a couple of draws, and certainly an FFA Cup final win at home as well, which was an absolute demolition job of them. It's become a graveyard again for Melbourne City. And certainly after the most recent game, I'm mates with a few Melbourne City fans. They're a good bunch of City fans. I like them. They just said that Hindmarsh is back to being our graveyard again, and it's being our place where what seems impossible for us to do becomes possible, and it's in a bad way. 2-0 up in the 85th minute or whatever, 80th minute or whatever, and it ended 2-2. Losing 4-0 in an FFA Cup final, but a lot of games that City probably should have been the better side and got results hasn't been happening. I don't know if it's Hindmarsh. I don't know if it's a curse, if you like, that everybody loves to speak about curses and all the unwritten rules when it comes to football and stuff like that. But it hasn't become a good spot. And I think that, I don't know if it's something about City. We have this mini rivalry that's not really developed on fans or anything. It's just developed on having good contests with them over the past sort of decade or so. I don't know if that plays into it as well. Certainly, we don't go to Amy Park and play well against City. So it's a similar kind of thing. But I wouldn't read into it too much. Certainly players don't like to. I speak to Bruce Jute every now and then, and I ask him sometimes about the sort of long-standing records when it comes to playing away or playing at home. And he says, no, it's just about mentality on the day and how you set up on the day. He certainly rejected that theory. And I'd be inclined to sort of agree with him. But I don't know, just home form, away form, players and teams do have off days.
You've articulated that quite nicely. I just think on the rivalry, a lot of it would be spiced up by the fact that we've obviously seen so many members of Adelaide United's personnel move on to Melbourne City. And I don't just speak of players, of course. There's plenty of departures that we've seen from the staff faculty too that have gone to Melbourne City, which I think that's kind of harnessed this rivalry a little bit. But let's just talk about how we're going to line up tonight. So if it's up to you, how should we line up tonight?
To be honest with you, I'm not 100% over who we have available because of just COVID and all that. We could lose players today if rapid antigen test comes back positive, then somebody's out. I think that we would line up very similar to how we have in the last weekend's victory and the game before against Wellington Phoenix. I'm not sure again who's available, who isn't. I think there'd be no point in changing the lineup and including the new signings yet. I think they should come off the bench. Potentially, Lachie Brook could start on Wednesday. We have another game against the Wanderers. Just because he's from Adelaide, he knows Carl Viet, he's played under, he knows the squad pretty well. He'd be the one I think would start first. Depends on how George Blackwood goes at striker as well, because we know he's been struggling for a little bit of fitness. But I think it would be very much keep the same lineup. Bernardo in the right wing, Goodwin on the left wing, Blackwood through the middle. And especially it's potentially Mauk's last game. So I don't think there's any point changing the midfield. Obviously, I have forgotten that SAS is out. He's suspended, and I'm sure we'll probably discuss that. But keep put Juande as that 6. Mauk as the 10 maybe. And then, you've got I think Dorigo was included in the squad, but he could miss out due to concussion. Maybe put Cavallo there. Kiddo's been performing at left back. He's had great link up with Goodwin. Just try and maintain as much of the squad as possible, I think, because if we change too many things, then all of a sudden you're going to come up against an experienced squad who, isn't in the best form, but has the experience over a team that's a bit younger and is constantly changing. So just, I think, keep as much of it the same as possible.
What's your intel that Mauk's going before the Wanderers game? Because I last read that he'd be going at the end of January.
Just based on what one of the press conferences released, I think yesterday or the day before, was that they're waiting for paperwork to come through. And, if it came today, then, he wouldn't play tonight. Or if it came through tomorrow, then he wouldn't play on Wednesday. So I think it's very much a sort of situation that they're just waiting for the deal to be finalised and all that. And then once that happens, then Mauk is released to go to his club in Japan. But for the time being, he's still our player until the sort of finer details go through and that paperwork's finished.
Thanks for covering that. And just on Ben Halloran, who departed recently, real shame that we don't have him tonight, given his past successes against Melbourne City. He loves a goal against Melbourne City.
Yeah, he does. I think he's something like 7 of his Adelaide United 20 goals or something he scored for the club. 7 have been against Melbourne City. So that's quite a record. And that's not just 7 goals. That's like a number of very important goals. FFA Cup final goal, elimination final winner against Melbourne City. He scored 2 goals against them in a 3-1 win. So ultimately he got the winner in 2019-20. Earlier this year, the equaliser in the 90 whatever minute, and that was just an absolutely outstanding goal. He's a big loss, Ben Halloran, and I think he actually flew under the radar a little bit as a United player, because he came just after a period where we had the Spanish flair. We had players who would take on players that had all of those sort of technical skills and those tight space, beating players like that. But Ben Halloran has been an absolutely fantastic player for us. Always, never missing games, barely ever injured, apart from, I think, his first season. He's always playing. He was part of the leadership team last season. And just, I can't think of anybody, apart from Craig Goodwin, who's scored more important goals in the last sort of few seasons than Ben Halloran. So I hope we see him back here. I think a move overseas is absolutely deserved. Potentially, if he keeps that form of Socceroos call up again, because he's just such a quality player, and I'm a really big Ben Halloran fan. I wish him all the best.
Yeah, no, here. Just in a quick kind of condensed fashion, if you can, Chris, break down how you think we've gone this season and how you think Melbourne City have gone this season.
Oh, look, we've been a little bit underwhelming. But I feel like that was also expected, because we did have a few sort of departures, change the squad up a little bit. And it's something that, you do need time to sort of gel. I'm just a little bit concerned now that losing Mauk and Halloran will set us back a little bit. Not obviously that we're losing a lot of quality, but just based on the fact that we're going to have to start a little bit from scratch again in the squad understanding, things like where they need to be and the movements, the tactics and all that. Because when you keep changing things, if you change a player, a new player comes in and then they have different movements and they have different sort of things. And the players around, all that stuff is being done with a thought process rather than it just being automatic. And when things are done with a thought process, you get shorter reaction times. There's more of a capacity to make mistakes. And that's why I think that we started a little bit slow, because it wasn't like it was just a continuation of last season. It was very much a sort of different type of, we had a lot of the same players, but, our defense line was completely changed. Craig was out, Yengi was starting versus, we had Juric starting for most of last season, or probably 18 games or so. I just think we were a little bit slow to get going. And now that we finally sort of started to get a couple of results, where our first win against Wellington, draw against Victory, I think we could have won that. Now we're just going to be set back a little bit. But I think we are a team that probably can't can't keep our stars for too long because that's just the nature of the A-League nowadays. The players playing well, they're going to go elsewhere. But I think that we've had perhaps a little bit below past season, but we're definitely not in any sort of bad situation yet. We can definitely make finals, and there is a lot of potential for things to go up here. And as for Melbourne City, I'll probably just more briefly speak about them. They've had good results, some good wins, but yeah, as I sort of touched on, probably not as strong as last season. And I know that a few my City fan mates have been saying that because Norway's maybe taking things in a little bit of a different direction, and maybe it hasn't quite worked for them. But again, they're a team that they have more quality, and they have so much quality that I think that if they just reverted to what they've been doing that's been working, then it'll work for them again. So they've had a better start, obviously, than we have, but probably not what City fans were demanding.
Just before we get to your prediction, your favourite memories against Melbourne City, home or away, and excluding that FFA Cup win?
The semi-final, I think. Bruce Jitte scoring 2 crucial goals. That's one that's going to be etched in our history, and certainly in my mind. But one that perhaps isn't spoken about as much, it was in Marco Kurtz's final year. It was on that road to us losing the penalty shootout against Perth Glory. And it was Ben Halloran, who obviously we've spoken about a lot today, scoring a 119th minute winner against Melbourne City. That's one of my all-time favourite goals, favourite moments as a fan of this club. That one was just phenomenal, I think. You know, when you locked 2 good teams, 0-0 for 119 minutes, you're thinking this is going to penalties. You're almost preparing yourself mentally for a shootout. And then to get a goal that late, oh my goodness, that was one of my favourites, yeah.
I'm going to rewind the clock back a bit for mine, all the way back to Melbourne City's first year as Melbourne City and not Melbourne Heart. When we beat them in the game that David Villa played against us, I remember thinking and having everyone around me saying that we're going to get absolutely rinsed here. And we ended up doing the rinsing over there. I remember watching on my phone on a horrible Wi-Fi connection at a restaurant and just jumping for joy when Bruce Jitte headed that goal in. And then Tarek Elrich was also great in that game as well from memory. And I just remember thinking, wow, we've just done it over David Villa. Do you remember that one?
I certainly do. There was a very, very good away base support there, actually. I think Red Army and the United away fans filled 2 or 3 bays. We played very well that game. I think Eugene made a fantastic save off David Villa. But it took a while. We ended up winning it in the 80th minute. It was a cello penalty. So, but no, that was a very big result. And David Villa, well, can't say it quite worked out for him, but it's one Spaniard against the Spaniards of the A-League, and the Spaniards certainly got the job done there. It was a good game.
We basically sent him packing. Good memories. And that was really the first we saw of this new machine, I guess, because that 13-14 season under Gombau hadn't really lived up to the heights many fans expected. And then we saw the machine really come into it in that season, and obviously got us on our way to our first bit of silverware in some 10 years. Your prediction, Chris, who wins?
I'm going to go for another draw tonight. I think we'll cancel each other out, not in an attacking sense. I think there'll be goals. Given that we've found our scoring touch recently, and City are a team that you can't stop scoring, I think maybe another 1-1 or a 2-2. But certainly there is a capacity for City to maybe score more than us. Just because of that quality factor, but yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think a 1-1 or a 2-2.
Would you take a draw?
A draw's not really what we need at the moment. We need wins if we're going to be chasing for that final spot. But I think being realistic here, until we get our new imports settled into this squad, maybe get a few of our players back from COVID. I think that, yeah, a 2-2, I'd take it in this circumstance.
Can't disagree, Chris. It's always great interviewing you. You take care of yourself. Enjoy the football tonight, and we'll catch up again very soon. Thank you very much, Chris Adams.
Thank you, Ellis. I can't wait for the game. I'll hopefully enjoy it. We'll see how we go. Thanks for having me on.
Great work. And thank you to our sponsors, Soccer Locker. Enjoy the game tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching.